Welcome, my love. Welcome to Being Brave. This is a podcast for you, for the kind, the sensitive, the creative soul that is ready, that is open, that desires to take responsibility for her greatness and her power, and is here to remember who she really is. I'm your host, Sasha Lipskaia. I'm an artist, I'm a coach, I'm an intuitive guide. Sometimes I'm a witch, sometimes I'm a shaman, sometimes I'm just a playful child. And I'm here to walk with you through inspired reflections, interviews, performances, stories about remembering who you truly are, and guiding you to hearing your soul's message and bravely birthing it into the world. Join me every week and let's thrive. Let's thrive in a life of love, creativity, embodied self-worth, presence, honesty, and being brave every single day, just as you are. Hello, dear friend. So today's episode is a different format. I am going to be introducing more long-form conversations with fascinating people, with my soulmates, really. I feel that my clients, my collaborators, and I don't want to call them even collaborators. I would say anyone that I co-create with becomes a soul friend, a soulmate, and an anamkara, a soul friend, someone that I can rely on, that I'm inspired by, and that informs the work that I do, the content that I produce, and also how I view the online space and the world I live in, which at this time is heavily based in spiritual work and mysticism. And I would say right now at this time, the most important part of my life is centered around discovering and trusting and living from the truth of our hearts together, co-creating the world from within and reflecting our truth to each other in a space of trust, of devotion, to being authentic, to being in integrity, to being deeply, deeply, deeply present to that still, kind, wise, and fiercely loving voice within you that is the voice of your soul. And so today's soul friend that I'm going to introduce you to is Tom Gentry. Now, Tom and I met almost a year ago in a clubhouse room, and where we were both panelists, and then we have developed a beautiful friendship. And today I'm going to let our conversation share more of what Tom is. But a bit of a background about him. Tom is a state and internationally certified addictions counselor. He also is a devoted father, a men's group leader, and he's also a student of A Course in Miracles. And I would call him a spiritual teacher, although he perhaps wouldn't. Because he is deeply humble and devoted to the work of true heart leadership, where he uses his personal experience and his professional prowess to helping people recover from their afflictions, their demons, their shadows, and embrace the light within. I am really excited to have you witness our conversation as we journey through his work as a therapist, a counselor, a creator, and a podcast host, I invite you also to check out his podcast, The Path to Authenticity, which brings incredible conversations with all kinds of heart-led leaders and light workers, therapists, artists, and human beings who are committed to living an authentic life. An authentic life meaning that it's a life that comes from the truth of what they are in this moment and is rooted in bravery, in vulnerability, and living with an open heart and a desire to love first and foremost, love. And so with this love, I invite you to join us in this conversation with Tom Gentry.
But I'm here.
You are. That's the only thing that matters, is that you're here.
I guess.
And well, yeah, because I want to talk to you. So you being here is very important for this conversation.
That's the point, I guess, right? Yeah. That's the important part.
Exactly. And it's so nice to actually meet you. Yeah.
Anyway, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk. I want to talk. Okay. I want to talk about you.
Okay.
I want to talk about you. I want to speak to men, and I want to speak to you, and I want to learn about what is it really, Tom, because I know a little bit about you. And like you said before, I've seen pictures of you with a beard and kind of looking away. I haven't seen much of you. And right. I know a little bit, but I want to come to this conversation from that place of just divine curiosity about what lights you up and what you are finding yourself becoming right now. Because I know that you play a lot of roles, right? But right now,
and it's probably a really good time for me to have this conversation because it will help me clarify some things too, I think.
Good.
You know, Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So is that my cue?
Yes. Well, you know, the cue is here. Let's play. I trust you. I know that you're going to say exactly what must be said for you to expand. So tell me more about you.
Well, so first of all, I grew up in the Midwest of the United States. I grew up in Indiana, and I moved to South Florida in 1996. So when I was 23, it's been a while now. And youngest of 8 kids, 5 sisters. So I feel like that has been a really important thing in my life in terms of how I relate with women. It's really shaped me in a way that I appreciate. So yeah, and part of my experience was really having this deep desire to be more connected to the males in my life. So I had 2 brothers and my dad, and they all drank. And I identified very early on that that was how I was going to connect with them. And really unconsciously, I think what I believe is that I really pursued that, which led to a problematic relationship with alcohol when I was young. And it was very acceptable to be intoxicated several nights a week if you were a male in my family. And I, took full advantage of that. So, and I had a lot of fun with it, but probably by the time I was 19, I decided not to go away to college. I decided to take a year off after high school. I had aspirations, but wasn't really clear about it. Felt like I was supposed to know, but I didn't. And, that's sort of this thing in our society where you're an 18-year-old, you're supposed to know what to do with the rest of your life. And if you don't, you should feel bad about that. And I really, I had that. And so I had teachers encouraging me to write. I was involved in journalism and really sort of shined in that area. But the people around me, my family, they didn't really see how writing could be a way that I could go have a life, and make a living. And so I heard things like, what are you going to do? Flip burgers so you can write? Not my mom and dad, but an older brother who was particularly abusive and also an alcoholic, active back then even. So I just kind of decided to acquiesce to what they thought I should do. And one of the things that came up was, well, you should get a trade. People always need plumbers and electricians. And so eventually I ended up joining the Carpenters Union, which was good. I learned a lot. So, I mean, I can do a lot. I'm pretty handy. I can do a lot of stuff. But I realized at 19, it was the winter. I was working on this dirty job site with jerks. I had this foreman who was abusive, and it just hit me like, this is not what I signed up for, and not what I want. But I felt stuck. I remember feeling really stuck and depressed, like this is my life now. And that was when, for the first time, I really drank to intentionally change the way I felt. And then that escalated from there. So between 19 and 23, by the time I was 23, I mean, it sounds dramatic, but it's really true. I mean, I nearly drank myself to death. And that, there was a reckoning. And I had people in my life, sisters and my mom, who weren't going to watch me die. And I ended up coming to Florida for substance abuse treatment. And I stayed. I recognized that it wasn't going to work for me to go back into that environment. And also, I think I'm pretty down to earth and I have Midwest values, but I'm not an Indiana guy, like that. I want a bigger life than that. It's a bigger life than, and I don't mean this to like deride it in any way, but where I come from, in the summer, it's like, well, the corn is really good right now. I picked up a bushel at the roadside stand at the farm, and then my sister brings half a dozen ears to my mom. That's life, man. And there's something really beautiful about that. I get it, communal and warm and loving, but it's just I want to go to the art gallery and the concert. And I grew up in a town full of 50,000 people with factories, and it was surrounded by cornfields. And really, from a cultural standpoint, most of what was going on was with sports, and people really built community around that, which was great, and I liked it, but I wanted more, So, and I didn't realize it. So it was all like divine guidance that led me to where I am now. And then about the time I started thinking, well, maybe I'll go back to the Midwest or meet or somewhere else, then I met who eventually became the mother of my son. And so that kind of, 15, 17 years later, here I am still here. And I probably will, I'm at a point where I'm figuring out where I want to be next, what I really want to be doing. I've taken a really hard right turn in my life a few years ago with what I'm doing professionally, and it's going pretty well. So yeah, I'm in a transitional place in my life that's been taking place for probably 3 years now. So feel like I've been talking a lot. Is there a question?
Oh, well, I mean, this is fascinating. I love that you you're leading me into what I really wanted to know, which is, it's interesting because I'm mostly interested. I'm interesting because it's interesting that you're speaking to your past as a pathway to the present, right? It's
Right.
not, this is who I am. It's,
Right.
this is who I am, and that which brought me here is
Right.
that. But
Right. Right.
that, it's that. And it's fascinating because I had no idea. I did not know. I know that you obviously, one of your roles is that of a substance abuse therapist, right? You work with people who
Hmm.
have experienced what you went through. I did
Right.
not know that you came into that work having lived it. So that was fascinating
Yeah.
for me to learn.
Yeah. And it was, generations of it in my family.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's safe to say that of the 8 of us, 3 of us are definitely alcoholics, and there are probably more, but it's not my
Mm-hmm.
place to say, um, and the, the family scapegoat, she was the third oldest sister, who, had a very difficult life, but, became an alcoholic, as a way of self-medication for like psychic pain, and she eventually stopped. She moved to Florida, and she did what we call in the 12-step world that she 12-stepped me, which she opened the door to recovery for me. And the place that I went was a place where she went the year before. And she made such a drastic change. And she was so happy after having been the most miserable, sad person who I probably knew, that it was like, wow, if this can help her. And the role that she really played was by letting me know how happy I could be without alcohol, because I didn't know. That was my world. That's what everybody did. Any
Mm-hmm.
celebration, any fun always included beers or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't see my life without that. And so she opened me up, and then kind of wouldn't have it any other way but to have me come down here and go to this incredible place where she had gone. And so I eventually, after being sober a couple years, got a job there and trained as a counselor there. And it's a facility that was part of what is now known as the Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation. So like the best of the best. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm really fortunate, the people who sort of shaped me from a career standpoint. They're just such incredible people. Like I hit the jackpot. I was at
Mm-hmm.
the place at its height, and the staff there was incredible. And I have all these, that was almost 25 years ago at this point, and I have all these long-standing relationships that still exist from that,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so that's kind of how it all began. And I started to have people pretty early on tell me they think I would make a good counselor. So I was open to it. I didn't decide that's what I wanted to do. I was open to it because I always had this journalism thing, and a creative part of me that I felt like that wouldn't satisfy,
Mm-hmm.
but it felt good. Helping people felt good. And I had this opportunity at this great organization where they were going to train me, and for nothing, basically. It was part of working there. And so I was able to get some credentials. And then what happened is, sort of after being in an entry level sort of behavioral technician, counselor's aide sort of position, after a couple years, I did well and I liked it. But at some point, I'm not making very much money. It's time for me to start looking. So then I had written for the daily newspaper in my hometown as a freelancer covering high school sports. So I had that experience. And at that point, I approached the Palm Beach Post. And I saw that they had an opening in the sports department for someone to take phone calls. And so I put together a packet and I sent them a bunch of clips of my writing, and they called me the very next day, which I was amazed. It's almost like the mail didn't even have time to get there. But, and, you know, the response I got was, well, you know, you're overqualified for this position that we're advertising, but we can use you right away. And so I started covering high school football, volleyball, softball, baseball, you know, as sort of a sideline down here. And it was a lot of work and not lucrative. And so I eventually drifted away from it. But another thing that happened was the people at my job knew I did this stuff. And at lunch one day, there's this cafeteria where we all kind of gathered. And I was at the table with the executive director, who was really into sports, this old Irish guy, Irish priest. And I didn't even really know what marketing was then. I mean, I kind of knew it was promotion, but, and I had been on like interdepartmental teams with this marketing director, and she was sitting at that table too. And the executive director said, Tom, what game are you covering this weekend? And I don't know what it was, but the marketing director said, covering? And I said, yeah, you know, I have a contract with the Post. She said, I didn't know that. And 2 weeks later, she approached me. She was writing a job description and asked me to apply for this new position, which I did, which was basically, you know, corporate communications, internal communication. I managed an advertising budget. I wrote radio spots. I wrote promotional copy. You know, it was such a great experience, and it enabled me to take the clinical experience I had garnered training as a counselor and working with patients, and combine it with my writing skills and interests in journalism, and have it all work together. And then that, at that point in that position, then I started to also build a book of business, and from a networking standpoint, started to make connections with people all over the country at sort of high upper echelon facilities. And so then, you know, then I knew people, and it just opened doors. So, yeah, so I could have seen myself working there for the rest of my life. Really, I loved the place so much. But, you know, like life, it happens where things change, you know, and so there was a leadership change, and about 6 months into it, I really didn't feel good about it. I felt undervalued, and I didn't feel like there was integrity. It wasn't heading in a position of integrity or in a direction of integrity. So I quit. I found a job.
Just like that.
Well, you know, there was a all employee meeting one day where this new director was just basically brainwashing everybody into thinking that he was right and everybody else was wrong. And I saw it, you know, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw how toxic he was and what he was doing. And he didn't value me. That's everybody else did, but he didn't. You know, and it's because I wasn't part of his little army of minions that he, you know, I was attached to the powers that be before, and he didn't like that. So so after that meeting, I went back and I made a couple phone calls, and probably took another job too quickly. It wasn't a great fit, and that ended up being the only job I ever got fired from. and it was with a publishing house. And you know, it was in the beginning, it was ad sales, which I'm not a phone sales guy. Like unless I really believe in it, I can't sell it. Like I don't even want to. I don't even want to try. So yeah, that it was a little impulsive, and it led to 2 or 3 years of really struggling to find my place. And I did some different consulting and worked in substance abuse prevention with kids some, but what it really did was set the stage for my career, because all these other people stayed at this place, which was out of integrity. And it was probably worse than what I could have imagined what became of this situation. And, you know, I took a stand and I left before it got bad, and people saw that. And so now, 25 years later, I have these conversations with, you know, like I was having a conversation with a CEO at a group of facilities a few months back about possibly doing some work with them. And she wanted me to talk to their marketing director, who I didn't know. And so she made an email introduction, and I've probably known her for 15 years and not that well. I mean, we know a lot of the same people and we like each other, but we don't know each other that well. But the way she introduced me was as a man of integrity. And that started with that decision of I'm not going to be a part of this, even if it means me struggling for a little while. And it really set the tone for my entire career. And so then I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, but I'll give you one more highlight and then maybe let you ask another question. So I struggled for a couple years, and I wanted to leave the addiction treatment industry and started to look other places, but it became very apparent. Can I scratch my nose? Can we edit this out for a second? Like my nose.
Scratch your nose. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Hold
on. So I struggled for a couple years, and then I think I said that I began to try to leave the industry. And, you know, just because there were more things I wanted to do, but I wasn't finding great opportunities anywhere but in the industry. So eventually I reached a letting go place where I said, okay, God, I'll do it. And that was at a point where someone had approached me to help her open a high-end men's transitional living facility, that the likes of which really didn't exist in this part of the country at the time. So, and there was a demand for it, and she didn't know how to do it, and she knew I did. So it was like I had somebody with the money and the resources who came to me, who needed a guy like me who knew how to do it, and basically said, where's your paintbrush? Like, let's, you know, it was an opportunity for me to create something and really put my stamp on it. And also, it's something I knew how to do. I believed I knew how to do, but didn't have the confidence. So it was an opportunity for me to go through that and have the experience and follow my heart and soul, my passion, and then have it succeed and recognize, wow, like I know how to do stuff. Like my ideas are good. So, and so what happened with that is it, you know, we hit the ground running and it went really well. We were full in a matter of months, which was kind of unheard of for something at this price point. And it was pretty immediately, nationally and to some degree internationally respected and recognized. And you know, we just crushed it. And so the woman I worked for at the time, part of the reason she was looking for someone else to help her was because she had a full-time job working in business development for the Crossroads Antigua Foundation, which is Eric Clapton's charitable organization. And, you know, it became apparent to her pretty early on she needed to leave. You know, it was they saw it as a conflict of interest, and that's a great organization, incredible. And so she left, and then people from Antigua began showing up. Like when they would have someone on staff, and like the people who worked for Eric Clapton, when they would be in the United States, they would always make a point to come by and spend time with us. And then eventually his key guy said to her, you know, we want to partner with you, and we want you to think about what that might look like. And 6 months later came back and said, we want to buy the whole thing, and you guys just keep doing what you're doing. And so Eric Clapton's charitable organization bought this company that I helped create, and I worked for him for 3 years. I mean, I could have,
oh my God. I love this so much, Tom. I love this so much. This is what lights you up. You got to build something and see what you're capable of creating, and have something of integrity come and swoop it up and support
it. Exactly. And that was the best part, was that, you know, he's not the typical rock star type of, I mean, he has a heart. I mean, he has a treatment facility in the Caribbean that's basically a Robin Hood scheme, where he gets people from Europe and the United States to come and pay full price so he can give treatment to people in the Caribbean. That's what he does. I mean, so to have someone like that come to us and say, you know, we see what you're doing, we love it, we want to help. And then what happened is the you know, revenue stream that I was bringing in, then all that profit all went to his charitable foundation. So so I did that for 5 years, and eventually it came time I needed another change. And then I went to work for this facility in Nashville that was it's called Cumberland Heights. At the time it was about 45 years old, and it's a place where it's in Nashville, so it is the preferred provider for Music Cares, which is one of the charities that the Grammy Awards funds. And they have a contract with this Music Cares. So like, it's the place where the musicians and the roadies, that's where they go for treatment. And like, there is a soundproof room there where, you know, in their contract, when an actual working musician goes there, it's in the contract that they have a private room, a soundproof room, where they can rehearse for an hour a day. And I mean, it just so cool. And you know, this room, you know, so much history. It had a Steinway piano, baby grand piano.
Wow.
That had been donated to them by Carnegie Hall. It was sitting in a warehouse in New York. And prior to that, the only time it had ever been used was at the opening ceremony of the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles.
Incredible.
Yeah. So
wild.
Yeah.
And very natural. Like you just bounce around these places and discover the magic that nobody gets to see. And the theme is helping people overcome what you truly know and also know is possible to overcome. That's what I find really
Right.
interesting. It's
Well, and
not.
it's also sacred.
Hmm. How
It
is it
is.
sacred? How is it sacred?
I believe it's God's work.
Mm.
I mean, when someone's dying emotionally, if not physically, and I really believe addiction is an existential crisis. That's what it was for me. And I didn't have any meaning and purpose in my life. I
Hmm.
was lost. And to be able to be someone who can be there with that person, that family, and be a light of hope, and to hold space for them and guide them. I mean, I'm a little self-conscious sharing this, but I will. Having grown up in a Catholic home, every Catholic mom wants one of her boys to be a priest, right? I mean, and she wasn't pushy about that or anything, but it's something I kind of always knew. And she always kind of treated me as if I had some sort of gift.
Hmm.
And I mean, I had a priest who she was close to, who at one point when I was 15 told me he thought I had a vocation, which totally freaked me out and
Hmm.
pushed me away. And but there have been a couple times. It's funny. I think the same day, a couple, or definitely in the same week, a couple different times, I was talking about this to two different people. One was a Reiki practitioner, and another one was my therapist, who both said, I basically said, I think my mom in her heart of hearts probably wanted me to be a priest. And they both said, well, that's what she got, just not the kind of priest she thought she would, you know?
Right.
Well, she got her priest, but just not the kind she thought. So, I don't take that lightly, but you know, you think about how screwed up religion is in the world and how off track it has gotten, especially Christianity, that is, seems to me to be so detached from Christ, and in a way that just baffles me. I think in one way or another, I'm some sort of postmodern priest.
Hmm.
I mean, and whether it's God or spirit or the universe or whatever you call it, I call it God out of convenience. Um, Ultimately, what I'm doing is leading people there.
Hmm.
And a lot of times in a somewhat subversive way, because I don't necessarily talk about it, because a lot of times people don't want to hear about that. They don't want to talk about God and their relationship with God. But if they, there's a lot to be said about living a spiritual life without ever using the word God, or becoming woo woo or churchy, or I mean, the spiritual principles of honesty and integrity and humility and brotherly love and all those things, the behaviors of being that are, you can demonstrate those to people. And then when the curiosity comes, oh, by the way, like I pray, like, maybe pray.
Hmm.
And it's like, it's a way to kind of reach people. I think most of the time, and people will argue this point when they're struggling with an addiction, there's always some sort of rupture in that relationship with God, or that they're not at peace with it. And so a lot of it is just healing that. And then the longer I've been doing this, and when I say doing this, I mean working on myself, because that's helping other people is really an extension of that. So so much of it is tapping into our own divinity and recognizing that God didn't make junk.
Hmm.
And I had someone on my podcast last week who, one of the things he said is, it's as if, you know, in our, you know, we act as if we have to find value in our culture, like whether it's work or relationships or whatever, according to earthly standards. And, you know, like we're not already valuable, and that God created all these half-baked clowns that it's just ridiculous when you think about it. It's really that we should have to earn that. It's just not real. So you asked me to say more about sacred. You know, I mean, we all have that flicker of love and purpose and passion, and that if that's like obfuscated, did I say that right? You know, blurred, and a person can't see it, you know, really what I'm doing is helping them see it. I had a young guy a while back. I was in a 12-step meeting, and it was a group of guys there who kind of were, it was their meeting that I'd worked with a lot of them, and some time had gone by. By this time, a lot of them are 3 or 4 years sober, and they asked me to come and tell my story, and I did. And then a few of them shared, and this particular guy who I really love, and who was lost, you know, when I met him, he shared with me one of the things that meant the most to him about my interactions with him. And that was that I told him he was a good man. And, you know, this is like a 23, 24-year-old kid who's trying to figure it all out. And I could see his heart. I could see how loving he was. And I also knew he needed to hear it because I needed to hear it when I was his age. And so I said it, you know, I said it occasionally, and stuff like that. I mean, years later, that's what stood out there about me, that I, you know, me reflecting back to him the goodness in him. Yeah. Another story that I was reminded of last night. I had this client who, he really had damaged his relationship with his parents in his addiction, and his parents had tried to get him help so many times. His dad had basically given up because he was hurt, you know, and was really detached from him and having trouble connecting with him and very leery about it. And so this young man would talk to me about it. And, you know, there was stuff that happened to him that his parents didn't know yet. And that was part of why. And so we had this conversation about, we don't say I love you. And he wanted that. And, but what if I say it and he doesn't say it back? And my response was, well, what if you say it and he doesn't say it back? Why don't you let go of the expectation of him saying it back and say, I love you because you love him, and just let it be that, and be understanding of him. And when he's ready to say, I love you too, he will say, I love you too. And, you know, a couple of years later, I get a text from this kid. Hey, just so you know, that's what I did. And he said, I love you too. What's better than that? You know, nothing.
No.
So that's what's sacred about it. Yeah. And this is stuff like this. It's good for me to talk about because I get all in my head about what I should be doing and what I should be concerned with and where I'm going and all that. And it just reminds me that I don't have to worry about that. I just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and everything's okay It's going to be okay. It's going to be better than I can plan or expect. And, you know, and also this is the meaning that I longed for as that kid who was numbing himself, you know, the connection. What I wanted with my dad and my brothers. I mean, I just gave you a great example of how I've helped someone else find that with his, you know, it's awesome.
And now you're able to have it with anyone who's available to it. They weren't available to it. I am available to it. So I'm here receiving that, and you're feeling it. And
oh yeah,
that's sacred. That's sacred.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that? That's the most beautiful thing in the world. What you just said, the next step or the next thing, and the thing is here, and it's everything.
Yeah. Well, and then I think I mentioned that I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I have a 15-year-old son who grew up in that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And now is at a place in his life where he's a teenager and he's doing the teenager stuff with his dad, like pushing limits and detaching and just being a teenager. But he knows how much I love him. And he knows that I love him so much that he can be kind of herky-jerky and mean sometimes, and that I'm not going to abandon him, that I will never leave him. He knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he knows that he can not talk to me for a month, if that's what, you know what I mean? It's like, and that's kind of where I'm at with him right now, which has been really hard in some ways, but also he has the self-esteem and the confidence to be able to do that, which I didn't, and I needed. And because of the work that I've done, I've been able to, as one of the parents who gave him that, you know, who has given him that ability and sense of self-worth. And, you know, that's pretty awesome.
You got to teach him about love.
Yeah. Well, that's all there is. You know, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's like, you know, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And you know, I was going through this thing with him where we weren't talking a lot, and I was afraid of losing him, seriously. And talking to a therapist who said to me, she listened to me talk about my fear, and she said, nothing real can be threatened. And you know, it hit me like that. It's true. Love is the only thing that's real, and if it's real, it's real. It can't be threatened. So, and it can express itself in any number of ways. It's not always going to be what we expect, but it's real. So, yeah.
And you know when it's real. You just know.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe it. You know it.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful. There is no doubting love. You know when it's love.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, like, we don't know each other.
No.
Right.
But we do.
But we do. We do. And it's like, you know, if truth be told, in my heart of hearts, I know I love you and you love me.
Absolutely.
Now, there's like, you know, that doesn't have to mean anything like in terms of the way the world looks at love.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's an undeniable connection that we have.
Absolutely. And who are we to deny it or say that it doesn't exist?
Or like say how it should be shaped or whatever. It's just, so it's just such a gift to meet someone else who gets that. Like, you know, it's love without an agenda except for to be experienced. Yeah.
And extended. Right? That's how you do that.
That's how it grows
by extension. Right? Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I haven't read a lot of Thomas Merton, but I've read some of his and work. And one of the things he talks about is love. If love is received, it grows.
Mm-hmm.
It grows, and it does. And if you think about the intimate relationships that I've had, and I'm sure you can say the same thing. I mean, when it doesn't work is when that other person can't receive it, or when we can't receive it from them. And so you reach an impasse spiritually, and so often we try to fight through it. And when but if the other person receives it, it just grows exponentially. It's incredible. Yeah.
Tom, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, my dear friend, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate you. I celebrate you. And if you found this helpful, I welcome you in sharing this with someone who needs a little pick-me-up and a reminder that they are the love that they seek. And I hope that you know how powerful you are, how loved you are, how needed your gifts are, and that you are enough, just as you are. I welcome your feedback and any requests or questions you have, so feel free to ping me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Sasha Lipskaia, or email me at sasha@sashalipskaia.com. And if you're looking for more support and perhaps a beautiful way to relax into more love and more flow and more of your soul essence, I have 2 beautiful meditations that you can download for free on my website at sashalipskaia.com. Feel free to shoot me a message, leave me a comment, and as always, stay in your love, stay brave, know that you are held, supported, and worthy.